For a lot of people, especially in the Midwest, Burger Chef is tied to memories in a way that's hard to explain unless you were there. It's strange now because the chain is completely gone, but for a long time it sat right next to McDonald's as one of the biggest burger names in America. So, what happened? Burger Chef began in Indianapolis in the 1950s, at a time when fast food was still being figured out. Frank and Donald Thomas were running a company that designed restaurant equipment, and one of their biggest inventions was a flame broiling system that could cook burgers incredibly fast, nearly 800 of them in an hour. To showcase what their system could do, they opened a restaurant in 1957 and used it as a working demonstration. That restaurant became Burger Chef. The burgers immediately stood out because flame broiling gave them a backyard grill taste that people weren't used to getting from fast food. Combined with how quickly orders came out, the concept caught on. One location turned into several and then dozens, as the Thomas brothers opened more locations, first around Indiana, then across the Midwest. By 1966, Burger Chef had around 440 locations and was one of the fastest-growing burger chains in the country. Just a few years later, that number had doubled. What helped it stand apart wasn't just the food, but how flexible and customer-focused the experience felt. Burger Chef introduced the Works Bar, which let customers customize their burgers themselves. You could add pickles, onions, lettuce, relish, sauces, however you liked. It was messy, slightly chaotic, and completely ahead of its time. They also leaned into value early. One of their most important contributions was the Triple Treat, a simple meal that bundled a burger, fries, and a drink for 45 cents. Over the decades, that idea of selling a full meal at a set price became a standard across the industry, but Burger Chef was among the first to really push it. By the early 70s, Burger Chef was thriving. In 1968, the chain was purchased by General Foods for about $16 million, and expansion accelerated even more. By 1972, Burger Chef had around 1,200 locations, making it the second largest burger chain in the United States, behind only McDonald's. But what most people remember isn't the store count or the menu innovations. In 1973, Burger Chef introduced the Fun Meal, which bundled food with toys, puzzles, and stories built around a cast of characters. The packaging was colorful, playful, and designed to feel like part of the experience rather than an afterthought. The Fun Meal came with its own world of mascots, including Burger Chef himself, his sidekick Jeff, and characters like Count Fangburger the Vampire, Burgerini the Magician, Cackleburger the Witch, and Burgerilla. It felt like Saturday morning cartoons crossed with dinner. These characters showed up in commercials, on packaging, and in promotional materials, creating a recognizable universe years before brand storytelling became a buzzword. The Fun Meal was the first kids' meal in the fast food industry, nearly 6 years before McDonald's would introduce the now ubiquitous Happy Meal in 1979. But they didn't just stop there. In 1978, just a year after the original Star Wars movie took over the world, Burger Chef landed an official Star Wars licensing deal. Fun Meals included Star Wars toys, and characters from the movie appeared in Burger Chef promotions and commercials.
We'd like a Star Wars poster, please.
I knew it. Well, all you do is buy a large serving of Coca-Cola for 49 cents, and the poster's yours.
Artu, look, it's us.
For a lot of people, this is how Burger Chef is etched into their memories. Sitting in the restaurant with a Fun Meal box, pulling out a Star Wars toy, and feeling like the most important person in the room for about 10 minutes. Those memories stuck, and decades later, those toys are still collector items. At its height in the mid-70s, Burger Chef felt everywhere. The brand had momentum, recognition, and a loyal customer base. But behind the scenes, things were not going well. Do you remember eating at Burger Chef in the 70s and 80s? Let me know in the comments and hit subscribe to help me get to 5,000 subs quickly. Under General Foods, Burger Chef expanded aggressively. Real estate commitments increased, operations became more complex, and decision-making moved further away from the restaurants themselves. General Foods was a massive packaged food empire, and Burger Chef became just another brand in its repertoire. Management decisions for a burger chain were made by people who didn't have a clear understanding of how fast food worked. Meanwhile, competition was intensifying. McDonald's was pouring money into television advertising and refining its systems. Burger King had leaned hard into flame broiling and customization. Wendy's entered the market in 1969 and grew rapidly through the 70s. Burger Chef was now competing against companies that were singularly focused on fast food. Burger Chef's international ambitions only added to the strain. The chain attempted to expand into Canada multiple times during the 1960s and again in 1969, launching a major advertising push in Toronto and other markets. Despite the confidence of the campaign, the effort was unsuccessful. Burger Chef lost a substantial amount of money in Canada, and McDonald's quickly overtook the market, forcing Burger Chef to pull out entirely before the decade ended. A similar story played out in Australia, where Burger Chef opened 10 locations in 1969. By 1975, all 10 had closed, and the company had lost roughly $1.3 million on the expansion. These failed international moves drained resources at a time when competition at home was intensifying. Then, in November 1978, something happened that permanently changed the way people saw the brand.
On November 17, 1978, 4 employees of the Burger Chef restaurant in Speedway, Indiana were abducted.
4 young employees working the late shift at a Burger Chef in Speedway, Indiana went missing. At first, police believed it was a robbery and treated it casually. The restaurant was even cleaned and reopened. Days later, all 4 teenagers were found murdered in nearby woods.
The bodies of Jane C. Freed, Mark Flemons, Daniel R. Davis,
and Ruth E. Shelton have been discovered late this afternoon.
The case became national news and remains unsolved to this day.
Today marks 40 years since the Burger Chef murders in Speedway, a crime that remains unsolved.
The tragedy devastated the local community, but it also left a lasting shadow over Burger Chef's name. Headlines linked the restaurant to the murders, and that association lingered far longer than any advertising campaign could counteract. By the end of the 70s, Burger Chef was losing money. General Foods later admitted it had expanded too quickly and underestimated how difficult it was to run a restaurant chain at that scale. In a 1972 interview, Chairman C.W. Tex Cook said the company had overextended itself, citing heavy real estate commitments and rapid expansion into a business it had little direct experience managing. Even with strong brand recognition and popular promotions, Burger Chef was becoming increasingly expensive to operate, and profitability began slipping well before most customers noticed anything was wrong. In 1981, Burger Chef was sold to Hardee's parent company for about $44 million. That sale effectively marked the end of the brand. Many Burger Chef locations were converted into Hardee's almost immediately. Others were closed. Some franchise owners fought to keep the Burger Chef name alive, and a handful of locations continued operating into the 90s under special arrangements. The last official Burger Chef closed in 1996. Even today, Burger Chef hasn't fully faded. Its toys became collectibles. Old signage now sells for thousands. Fun meal memorabilia still shows up on eBay. Hardee's has brought back the Big Chef burger for limited runs, tapping into nostalgia that still resonates. Burger Chef even resurfaced in popular culture in 2014 through Mad Men. In the show's final season, the chain is portrayed as a symbol of family, connection, and shared experience. In many ways, Burger Chef helped write the modern fast food rulebook. Combo meals, kids marketing, licensed toys, customization, and value pricing all trace back to ideas the chain pushed early on. It just didn't survive long enough to be remembered the way it probably should have been. If you grew up going to Burger Chef or remember the fun meals, the Works Bar, or the Star Wars toys, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.